Hello everyone, welcome to the channel. Today I have something very special planned out for you guys because we're gonna be talking about my Mr. Supranational experience. Can you guys believe that it's been over 1 year since I joined and competed at Mr. Supranational 2023 representing Canada? I don't know where the time is going or what is going on, but somebody tell me how to stop it. Jokes aside, this was an incredible experience and I kept a lot of the information and a lot of the memories private for myself. So the other day, I put a sticker on my Instagram story asking you guys to send me any questions that you might have about my experience. And today, I will be answering all of them. I will be covering everything from personal experiences, insights about the pageant world, some of my personal reflections, and of course, we're gonna spice things up a little bit with some lighthearted questions. So without further ado, let's get it started. I thought it would be a good idea to start with some personal questions. So the very first one says, what was your best memory during your Mr. Supranational journey? And honestly, as stereotypical as it might sound, I think that the best part of the experience was getting to share those moments with my co-candidates. A lot of the boys became my friends, and even up until this day, we're still in touch. We have group chats with some of them, and every now and then we just check on each other, or whenever there's something going on in the pageant world, or some of our co-candidates is joining another pageants, we just message each other, we encourage one another. And I think that at the end of the day, when you think of all the hard works and the struggles and the things that we went through, all of us together, it's really that bond that makes it all worth it at the end of the day. What was the hardest part during your stay in Poland for the pageant? How did you manage it? So I think I talked about this before. When I was competing for Mr. Supra, one of the sponsored things that we needed to do was to film a video for a bike company. So they took us to the mountains. It was a beautiful view. I went on the bike, and they were filming us with drones. So I was riding my bike down a hill and I fell. I tripped from the bike. I hit my leg and it was extremely painful. I was bruised for most of the competition and I was actually kind of struggling to walk a little bit, although I kept my mouth shut because the last thing that I wanted was to have an incident and have to leave the competition to go to the hospital or whatever. They putting me on a cast or something. Can you imagine in the middle of the competition? That would have been a disaster. But I think that was the biggest challenge because all throughout the different competitions and different events that we needed to be there in person and walk, I was struggling with one of my legs. The rest wasn't so bad, to be honest. Have you ever thought that you will be a contestant? And to be quite honest, the answer is no. If you've been following for a while, you know that I only became a pageant fan during the pandemic. So pageantry is not something that was in my blood or in my radar for most of my life. When I started appreciating pageantry, it was more from the perspective of an audience member. I started analyzing pageants and following pageant contestants, but not necessarily with the desire of joining. The first time that the idea of joining a pageant was drilled into my mind was actually the prior year of Mr. Supranational when Luis from Cuba won the competition, and I thought, my God, this is the first victory for a Cuban in like the male pageant industry, and I was so very inspired by that. I did message Supranational about what the protocol was in order to join the competition, and this is basically when the idea popped into my head. But ultimately, I decided to join because of the encouragement of people around me, some of my friends, and even some of the members at Supranational that were very optimistic and telling me, if you can do it and if you want to try it, maybe it could be a good experience. So that's how I went for it, but it was not something that I always wanted to do since I was a kid, type of thing. What lessons have you learned from being a contestant, and what are the most memorable moments? The biggest lesson that I learned joining a male competition, Mr. Supranational, it was just self-discipline, to work very hard, to know that I was representing something way bigger than just myself. So I needed to carry myself with a lot of dignity and pride, and also just knowing that I was basically challenging myself to get out of my comfort zone. Joining Supranational, as I said, is not something that I planned for the longest time. So for me, it was a huge challenge. It was also a little bit nerve-wracking because it had to do something with the industry that I work in. I am technically a pageant content creator, so if things go incredibly well during the competition, then that's great for my, content creation career. But if things go really badly, then that could also affect my career. So I was very conscious of that going into the competition. So I just think that the biggest lesson was that I learned how to carry myself and present myself under a very positive light in any situation. And one of the best memories that I have from the competition, this is gonna be a little bit of a chica moment, okay? This is some gossip. During our stay in our hotel, there was not a gym that was available to us, and we were not allowed to leave the hotel premises without informing the staff, because of course they want to guarantee our safety and that nothing is gonna happen to us. But as you can imagine, in a male competition, all the guys want to work out, they want to look good, especially we have the swimsuit challenges and whatnot. So me and other misters, we decided to sneak out of the hotel and go work out at a nearby gym. Of course, we had to do it secretly because if we get caught, we're technically not allowed to do that. I'm not going to disclose the identity of the other boys who joined me. Once we got to the gym, we were so nervous of being spotted or a car driving nearby and seeing us. When we got to the gym, we found out other members of the Supranational boys at the gym already. So we felt like, oh my god, we thought we were such badasses for sneaking out and, you know, going workout. But the reality is that seems like a lot of them were actually doing it. So at the end of the day, it was just a lot of fun. Let's cover some insights and advice. Someone is asking me, are you trained to join a pageant? And if yes, by what nationality? So most of you will know that I prepared for my Mr. Supranational journey here in the Philippines with KF, Tito Rogel, and Felix. Those were more precisely my trainers for the competition. I trained for, I believe, over 3 months, and I had several trainings a week, sometimes 3 times a week, sometimes 4 times a week. We covered a variety of things, not just the walk, but also the posture, how to carry yourself, how to work out, how to basically do everything for a pageant. Because the reality is like pageantry is so different from real life in a lot of ways, and the things that we do in pageantry might seem exaggerated, but if you adapt it, you can basically also apply those things to real life. So if you're going for a job interview, it's just like when you're preparing for a Q&A section, the way that you sit down when you are interacting with a client, your posture matters, your confidence level. So those things, you know, you can also apply to real life. But for around 3-4 months, I was basically just focusing on the training part here in the Philippines. I believe it was from March 2023 until I left in the beginning of July to go to Poland for the competition. What's your advice for male pageant aspirants? Lots of love to you, brother, from India. Thank you so much, sending all the love in the world right back to you. My biggest advice for male pageant aspirants will be to just be yourself. Don't be scared to put yourself out there. I feel like the world of pageantry, especially for males, still has so many stereotypes and stigma around it that there is so much room for us to deconstruct those stereotypes, those prototypes that have been put in place. And I think that's also kind of a big part of my journey. I was shaking up the system a little bit in ways that I felt comfortable doing, that I was very confident doing, and that I thought that it was a step in the right direction. I would love to see in the world of pageantry more men being really involved in their advocacies, because I feel like sometimes it's a little bit superficial in the male pageant world. I would love to see men who are intellectual, who are smart and like to put it up front. I mean, we got a lot of that in Supra. That was one of the things that I also realized joining a male pageant, is that a lot of them actually care, are very smart, and sometimes from the outside we only see a body and muscles, but these guys are really amazing people. So I also gained a certain layer of respect for male pageantry in that sense. Officially, Melanie, our beautiful Miss International Canada and Miss Cosmo Canada, is asking, what did you learn most about your experience? I feel like my journey was kind of a self-discovery journey, because for most of the competition, it was just me, myself, and I. And I had to rely a lot on my own skills, on my own network, on my ability to communicate with people in order to build a small team that could basically prepare me for the competition. I was an independent candidate, so I didn't even have a national director or someone that I could look up to. And I'm gonna share something that I've never said before publicly. There was a time in the competition where, this is right before I fly to Poland, and I have to basically start spending on plane tickets and the luggage and, you know, a lot of the things that require money when it comes to pageants. And there was this national director from another country who had a couple of franchises for Supra. He also had franchises with other pageant systems. I'm not gonna drop names, But he basically approached me and told me, I want to help you, so I will fly you to another country. I will give you wardrobe, I will give you photo shoots, I will give you plane tickets, everything for your competition. The only condition is that you have to give me credit for absolutely everything. So whatever happens during your journey, if you do great, it doesn't matter. At the end, you have to say that it's all because of me. And I don't know why, but I always had this feeling that I was going to Supranational and I had a very optimistic outlook on the competition. So I felt like there's a chance for me to do well, and I don't want to just give away all of my hard work to someone else just because he's willing to sponsor a plane ticket and like get me a couple of photos. So I declined that offer, which added to the level of stress and nerves because I mean, going to a competition was very expensive. I think that overall from A to Z, I spent over $10,000. That was a lot. But I think that if you do things smartly and if you're able to network properly and you have, like a game plan, you're able to recover the investment. At least I have been able to recover it. Thanks God. What has been the biggest transformation joining the pageant? I feel like the biggest transformation was definitely mental. As I mentioned earlier, just a lot of relying on myself, being able to handle a lot of things at the different times. Not only I had to prepare for photo shoots, I had to work out, I had to meet with my team for Q&A trainings, go do some fittings, go train for my walk. All of those things, I just kind of took a step back from my social media job basically, and I just focused for 2 or 3 months in the preparation. So I had to learn how to juggle, a lot of different things at the same time. And I feel like if anything, that just showed me how capable I was of handling a lot, mentally speaking. Out of experience, in your own words, what can you say to those thinking of joining Supra? I will just say, go for it. If you can do it, 110% go for the experience. It's absolutely worth it. It's a lot of fun. It's challenging. It will take you out of your comfort zone, but at the end of the day, the reward will be so much bigger than what you could expect. Inquire if there is a national franchise in your country, if maybe they can appoint, or if there is a national competition, join that. If there's no franchise, you can reach out to the organization directly to see what are the conditions to join. And one thing that I wanted to point out, because a lot of people messaged me and told me, oh, you were so lucky because you were basically an independent candidate. You didn't have to compete in your country in order to go to Supra. It's true, it kind of saved me some time in that sense and probably some money as well. But at the end of the day, I would say that joining your national competition and having that experience, it already gives you like a preview of what you can expect in Supra. So when I went to the international edition, I felt almost like I had a little bit of a disadvantage because a lot of the boys had already competed in their national competitions, in their countries. For me, Mr. Supranational was my very first pageant ever. Ever. So, just be mindful of that. If you have a national competition, borderline, it could be an advantage. So go for it. Alrighty, let's get into some of the controversial and spicy questions. Alright, the first question says, inclusivity is one thing, but do openly gay contestants have a real chance of winning the title? And to be honest, as controversial as this might be, and as many people like to say the opposite, I think that yes, they absolutely have a chance of winning the competition because at no point during my time in Poland, I felt like I was being treated differently from any other contestant, and I felt like no one within the organization gave me a different vibe or a different look just because I believe I was the only openly gay contestant of my own edition. If anything, from my co-candidates and the staff at the organization, I always got very positive, encouraging vibes. And I believe that this is my truth. Now, on social media, that was a different story. But in real life, I can't complain about anything that happened during my experience. Daryl is asking, can you confirm, is there such a thing as a male winner prototype for Mr. Supra? Okay, so when you look at the winners of Mr. Supranational over the years, last year was their 7th edition of the competition, and this year we're going into the 8th edition already. I do feel like there are a lot of similarities between the winners. I guess that in that sense, you can say that there is kind of a prototype. They are all tall, muscular, masculine, Some of them have beards, some of them don't. This is all from the outside when you look at the guys who got the opportunity to become a brand ambassador for Supranational. But in reality, when you get to know them, I do feel like they had characteristics that set them apart from everyone else. And I feel like the physical aspect part of it is definitely an aspect that will be taken into consideration because it is still a male pageant, like a beauty pageant. So the looks will matter, but I don't believe that that is the only requirement for, winning the title. It doesn't matter if you're the tallest guy and the more muscular guy. If you have a nasty attitude and if you don't know how to treat people around you, trust me, you will not win the title because at the end of the day, they're looking for a brand ambassador, someone to represent the organization, what they are looking for, what they aspire to do. Whenever you travel, you will carry their message. So it's not just about how you look, it's also about how you behave, how you carry yourself, and how you treat people around you. So I hope that makes sense. Maybe I'll give you more clarity with the next questions. How did you handle the ignorant hate you got on social media during your journey? To be honest, I was very surprised of how well I handled it because maybe because I was already on social media for such a long time before I joined Supranational. It had already been a couple of years creating content here on YouTube, and a lot of people, sometimes when they don't agree with you, they go the nasty way, and they will insult you and call you names and whatever. So by the time that I joined Supra, my skin was pretty thick when it comes to that. Initially, I'm not gonna, make you believe that I was unattainable at all points during the competition. Before I went to Poland, I kind of promised myself, I will go there, I will try to be on social media. If I feel like I will be affected, I'm just gonna log out. And I had a person that I can send all the material that is supposed to be posted, that I can just send photos and videos, and they can handle my social media while I'm competing, because I truly didn't want to have the distraction of being affected by what's going on social media and have that be reflected on my performance or in the outcome of the competition. But truthfully, once I got to Poland, I was there the first day. I posted about my arrival. I saw a lot of positivity, and then I saw a couple of hate comments. And after I read the hate comments, I told myself, yeah, I can handle this, no problem. And to be honest, for the rest of the competition, I was very, very, very present on social media. I will read all the comments, I will see all the stories, I will see all the posts. So to me, I was just very, very happy with the attention that I was receiving. The good and the bad. I mean, you can't please everyone, so, What's more difficult, being a judge or a contestant? Did you ever feel pressure during your experience? This is not even a question, to be honest. It's definitely a lot more difficult to be a contestant. A judge ultimately has to make a decision, but a contestant is putting everything on the line to be liked and to show what they're capable of. So I think that contestants, hands down, have the hardest job. And when it comes to the pressure, yes, I did have some personal expectation of how well I wanted to do, how far I wanted to go in the competition, but it's not like I had like a national director breathing on my neck, expecting me to win. I saw a lot of my co-candidates go through that, have to deal with pressure and expectations from their teams. Me, luckily, I did not have that, and I could just focus on the things that were important to me. I could focus on going as far as I wanted to go and not necessarily have to fulfill someone else's expectation of my journey. What do you think about the outcome of the competition? Do you agree with the winner? Right after Mr. Supranational, there were so many questions about people who were very upset because, everyone has their bias, and someone was rooting for him, the other was rooting for the other one. And at the end of the day, I think that I was very happy with the winner. I think that Mr. Spain was just an incredible guy. Some people were saying, oh, because he's he looks like the prototype of the guys who will do well in Supra, which is true. Physically speaking, he looks like the prototype, but also he was just very kind. He was just a very open guy. He was friendly to everyone. And one thing that I really liked about him that I saw a couple of times in person was that, we all become friends. And we were like over 40 candidates. We all have our little groups, so we're all in little groups. But in any situation, you always have like those outcasts he will go out of his ways, even though if he's with his friends and with his group of people, he would always go and check out on the outcasts. And in that sense, I feel like he was a little bit of a social butterfly, as in he has his own friends and the people that he gets along with, but he can also adapt to everyone else. And I feel like maybe that played in his advantage. But if you ask me, was he deserving of the title? 110%. I remember after our introduction ceremony, we had to do a little speech, and he got a little nervous during that time. And afterwards, he was kind of like, beating himself about it. And we had a little conversation about it on the bus. And I told him, don't be so harsh on yourself. I mean, you did great. And at the end of the day, you know that you can literally win this, right? It's like a possibility. So don't be so harsh on yourself. And when he won, I mean, to me, honestly, as a pageant content creator, and I do this for a living, it was not a surprise. And I was very happy for him. He's been a great title holder, if you ask me. Now let's talk about some of the behind the scenes and the fun moments for me. One of you is asking me if I can share some of my backstage dumps. And honestly, there's just so much that was happening all throughout Mr. Supranational. Of course, you guys get to see the official events and the competitions, but behind it, there is just a lot going on, whether it is from, the breakfast in the morning, or us in the bus, or sneaking out to work out, preparing and helping one another right before, we go on camera with our suits, with our makeup, with our hair, just making sure that we look our best. Helping one another to train for Q&A, or even during the rehearsals for the show. I mean, you guys don't realize Supranational has, in my opinion, the most elaborate male pageant in the world in terms of the production. So the hours of rehearsals were just endless. And during those times, we had to help one another and uplift one another. And if you're feeling down and if your energy is low, we have to pick you up and get you back up and running, right? So those were some of my favorite moments. A moment that I will always remember was right before prelims, before we had to go on stage. And we were all just so happy because it just felt like, for a lot of us, all of the hard work and all of the endless, sleepless nights were finally coming to fruition. This is the moment that all of us have been working for, that all of us have been waiting for, and here it is. Let's enjoy it and make the most out of it. If there is one thing that you want to change in your Mr. Supranational journey, what is it and why? Oh my god, I don't want to sound like pageant patty and give you guys like stereotypical answers, but honestly, there isn't much that I would change about my Mr. Supranational journey. I know that some people message me sometimes and they're like, oh, I was rooting for you, I wanted you to go at least into the top 10, I wanted you to win the competition or whatever. And to be honest, going there as an independent candidate, I had one goal, actually two goals. And the first goal was that I wanted to obtain a placement, because to me that was a challenge. First of all, I didn't have the huge support machines that some of the contestants had. And second of all, I knew that I was not the prototype. So to me, if I was able to obtain a placement, that would be already like a way of disrupting the system a little bit and helping it advance in my very own way. The second goal that I had was to win for Best Interview, which ended up being technically my Super Chat performance, which I ended up winning. That automatically helped me enter into the top 20. So I was very happy because of that. And a lot of people right after the competition, they were telling me, oh, you only entered the top 20 because you won Super Chat, which I did, rightfully so, right? I mean, I had to I have to show my comm skills for it. But after the competition, the organization shared the ranking of the top 25, and already just by ranking, I was within the top 20. So for me, that was the best way to wrap it up, knowing that I obtained a placement in my own merit, and I also obtained a special award for the best interview. So I was happy with that. So yeah, I don't think I will change anything when it comes to the experience. Are people still friendly after not winning? I think that, well, for the most part, yes. As I told you guys, I do have a group conversation with some of the boys, and we still, in touch. None of us, within that conversation, none of us won technically, but we're still friends. I do know for a fact that a lot of the contestants were disappointed. You know, a lot of them had very high expectations for themselves. A lot of them had a lot of pressure because of their teams expecting them to also go back home with the title. So I know that it can be challenging. I think that some of them were kind of like heartbroken and decided to take a step back, which is okay and completely understandable. But you know, I also kind of feel for the winner because he was technically in the experience with all of us. He was going through the same emotions, ups and downs and everything. And at the end of the day, if some boys are not happy or, you know, they are making certain comments as in like, oh, it should have been me or he didn't deserve, I would feel bad if I was in the winner's position. So I think that for the most part, everyone was okay. Some of them were dealing with their own emotions in their own ways, but yeah, for the most part, everyone was cordial. Very important question. Did you somehow expect to win? No. Honest to God, guys, I never really expected to win Mr. Supranational. As I mentioned, I knew going there that I was not necessarily the prototype of contestant, you know, that I was not necessarily what the organization was looking for, at least from my perspective. I also never felt like it's impossible for me to win, you know? It's just like I didn't give myself that goal that I'm gonna go there and win, and it's like whether I win or nothing. I honestly just went there wanting to basically achieve the things that I just told you about, you know, obtain my placement, do well in the interview, and then I also wanted to use this as a platform to bring visibility to the things that were important to me, which were, you know, to talk about some of the issues within the pageant world, since I am literally in the pageant world as a content creator. And I also wanted to use this as an experience to network, to meet more people, to reach out, you know, to a new audience, to gain some visibility. And I think that ultimately I was able to achieve that, because when I look at the opportunities that I had after Supranational, I think that I've been able to travel to so many countries and be a guest judge and, you know, host and do so many other things just because of that platform that was given to me through Mr. Supranational. So I knew that, you know, going there to the pageant, it wasn't just about winning the title. There are other ways to win that doesn't require for you to go home with the main title. Just keeping it real, guys, I never expected to win, but I knew that I will win in other ways. And I think I have, haven't I? All right, last question, but definitely not least. Are you going to participate in another male pageant soon? The answer is yes and no. Because truthfully speaking, I am fully open to the possibility of joining another pageant. As I said, I had a great experience at Mr. Supranational, and I think that I do have more to offer in terms of, you know, my pageant experience and my pageant journey. I wouldn't join right away because right now I'm really trying to focus on my career, on accomplishing some of my personal goals and objectives. You know that working on social media can be a very volatile industry, and you have to really kind of like build something solid for yourself. There have been a couple of proposals that have been made to me to join other pageants. Some of them, to be honest, I have considered. Others I have just declined right away because it's just not the perfect time. And I mean, just being fully transparent, you guys, if I was to join again, I would really like to focus on my physical preparation, because I feel like in Supra, I was so comfortable with the comm skills, I was so comfortable with the advocacy, I was so comfortable with the networking and just being on camera, but I did feel like I needed more work when it comes to the physical part of it. I just realistically didn't have the time to prepare as much as I wanted for that competition, and I also didn't have the support system in terms of like nutrition and like fitness in order to coach me to a level that I felt like I could compete against some of these boys in terms of, you know, the physical aspect. Everything else, I was super you know, I felt like I was bringing a certain edge and that I was very competitive, but I just have to be realistic to myself. I didn't feel competitive on a physical level. So if I have to do it all again and join another pageant, I feel like that will be my main focus, to show that, okay, I'm capable of all of these things that you guys already saw and know, but I'm also able to bring this other thing to the table and be this whole other person that you have never seen, if if that makes sense. All right, you guys, that is a wrap for this Q&A. I hope that you have been able to enjoy this conversation, looking back at my journey for Mr. Supranational. To me, as I said, it was a life-changing moment in my life. I look back at it with a lot of love and appreciation, and I hope that you guys have found some sort of value and inspiration in this journey, because ultimately that is the goal of it all. We want to give you guys some inspiration to apply to whatever situation you're going through in your personal lives. If you have any other questions, please let me know down below in the comment section. I will try my best to answer as many of you as I can possibly address. If there are some anecdotes that you would like to share as well, please go ahead, leave them down below. And thank you for watching up until this point. Don't forget to drop a like, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you guys very soon with more content. Stay tuned because I have a big surprise for you coming soon. Love you guys.